Good afternoon, and welcome to our Global Strong YouTube channel. I am so happy that you're here today with us. Today is March the 12th, and I want to talk to you about listening to Rascal Radio today. And what I was listening to was a podcast called The 10 Top 10 Mistakes People Make with Their Finances by Brady. And it seemed to be really appropriate because here at Global Strong, we're actually going to be teaching financial fitness starting next week. And it just seemed to be right on top of mine with everything that's going on. And so I kind of wanted to talk to you about the podcast and what I learned from it. And actually, even had written an article and posted it on my LinkedIn page about the same kind of concept. So, just a couple things. I'm not going to go into all 10 points, but three or four that really hit me was that people take financial advice from people who are not truly knowledgeable in the finances, right? So they take financial advice from their friends or family, and maybe their friends and family aren't in any better position than they are financially. So while they may be giving well meaning advice, it may not be applicable, right? Or maybe it can only take you so far. I know that my grandfather was my mentor a lot growing up. And one of the things he said that I really wish I would have listened to more often was you don't buy anything on credit. And in today's society, credit is such a huge, it's a scam, honestly. I mean, even college, when they're going, new students getting out of high school going to college, part of that whole college registration orientation is they give them credit card applications and assign them pre-approved credit cards. When most people going into college have no clue about, I mean, let's be honest, most people in general do not understand how money works or how credit works. And so we've become this instant gratification culture where in my grandfather's time you saved up, you planned out what your big expenses and you saved up for them. You didn't just buy things with credit cards. My grandfather didn't have a single credit card to his name. He bought paid cash. And for the longest time I did the same thing. And then I remember when I went to buy my first house, I didn't have any credit. And it wasn't that I had bad credit. I just didn't have credit. And they look at, your credit score, which your credit score is really a misnomer because it's not about how much money you have or how much credit. It's about how much debt you have to your income ratio. And so I didn't have any. Fortunately, between my manifesting and I manifested some really great people in my life. One of them was the loan approval guy, and who got very creative. And so there were people who I did business with that I paid cash, and so they basically wrote me letters of credit for nothing else, I guess, because I did a regular business with them on a monthly basis, and I had, a standing, I guess what they call revolving credit. But up until then, I didn't have, you know, and then I fell into that, oh, you have to have credit, you have to have credit, you have to have credit cards. So I got a couple, and I'd been on a couple with my mom, and she didn't handle hers really well. So then I was paying off stuff I hadn't even bought, and realized, yeah, I don't need credit cards. Because credit gives you that false sense of security, and it was a huge eye opener for me. And then the other thing that people they're buying it. We'll talk about credit cards. You're buying into that treadmill. Well, everybody has credit cards, right? So of course it's the thing to do. Yeah, not really. Um, just because everybody else has them doesn't mean that you should have them. Unless you're really, really good and you're able to you're just like I know some people, for example, who have gas credit cards and they put their tank of gas on it or the 2 tanks of gas on a month and they pay it off at the end of the month. If you're doing that to build up credit ratings or whatever, I can see that. But honestly, if you know how much money you're going to be spending on gas, you just budget for that, right? And you pay it that way. So it just kind of depends. I think the biggest of the 10 things he listed, one of the biggest things is not knowing how money works. because a lot of people really they don't understand how money works, and they don't understand that whole dynamic. I recently finished reading the book by Owen Woodward called the Exposed to Financial Matrix, and it was amazing some of the stuff I learned because you really don't know what you don't know, right? And that philosophy that what you don't know can't hurt you is so much of a lie. Because if you don't know something, you can be held accountable for it, or it can affect you short term and long term both. One of the quotes that Orrin actually has from his book says, "Live the life you always wanted by losing the debt you never needed." Because society itself seems to be in that resolve of you have to have debt, you have to be in debt. I remember, especially when I was a single mom, how I would spend nights awake because I didn't know how I was going to put food on the table for my girls. I didn't know how I was going to manage to pay my bills. I didn't know, and I was working. I was working full time, and I was also freelancing on top of that. Um, but I worked at the time. I worked for a school district. They paid monthly, so you get paid once a month, and you had to budget that whole month. I became very good about, my girls learned early on if it wasn't on my calendar, if I didn't know something was happening, it didn't exist in my life. And that included things that they might need for school because everything had to be budgeted and there wasn't a lot of extras. And as I know several of you as parents, you probably know you do without so your kids can have, right? So my kids may not have had everything they wanted, but they had everything they needed. And that like, and I can remember one time my daughter said to me, "Well, Mom, cause I told her we don't have the money for that right now," and she said, "Well, Mom, just go to the bank and get it." And so I had to sit them down and explain to them there was only money in the bank if you put money in the bank, and they never saw me depositing money. They only saw me taking money out because my paycheck was automatically deposited. So they didn't see that second side, right? And it was just a new thing. And I can remember even with my first husband, when all of a sudden when the debit cards came out and ATM machines, I was the one who's balancing the checkbook, and all of a sudden we were in the hole because it was that whole mindset, kind of like if I have checks, I must have money. Well, if I have a debit card, I must have money. It didn't work that way. But he wasn't taught finances, and so many people aren't taught finances. I mean, sometimes in some schools they may teach you how to write a check and balance the checkbook, but even that I think is going away because very few people write checks anymore, right? They use their debit cards or ATM cards. So it's about just really understanding how money works and how that affects your life. And, you know, if some stores charge you if you use a debit card or a credit card to pay. And a lot of people don't even realize that they're getting charged a fee. So it's just being knowledgeable of that amount is so important. So my takeaways today that I would really like you guys to think about is, choose to get out of debt because it's a choice. It's a lifestyle change, but it can be done. Um, get money to work for you. Begin to have a regular savings program and start it now. If you don't have one already, start it now. And then, you know, one of the things that they said in the podcast was you can get poor quickly. We talk about getting rich quickly. You really can't get rich quickly, but you can get poor quickly. And you can get overwhelmed with debt and credit cards and payday loans and all these kind of things that people buy into. Don't go down that path. Global Strong is actually offering starting next week. We're going to have a financial fitness course. I will put the link into this podcast. So if you guys are interested, want to check it out, please do join our free community. And again, thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Please share and subscribe if you haven't yet. Excuse me, hit the notification button so that you can be made aware when we're going live. And please, if you know anybody who you think would benefit from this or would benefit from our financial fitness course, please recommend them. Thank you. And remember, we're Global Strong and we have advisory tables, and our advisory roundtables inspire. If you're an entrepreneur or business person or just a regular person who wants to learn more, we'd love to have you join our community. Thank you and have